Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Joe Emilio Show. I'm your host, Joe Emilio. And on tonight's show, we're going to be discussing a few things about the e-cigarette situation in South Africa. Also going to be discussing electrical cars in South Africa. And later on tonight, ladies and gentlemen, at 8 p.m., I'm joined by Jack Miller from the Cape Independence Party and Phil Craig from the Cape Independence Advocacy Group. We're going to be talking about the Cape Independence March and a lot of other things. So don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. That's all coming up right now. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. I am Joe Emilio. This is the Joe Emilio Show, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be back. Look, first off, sorry I'm not streaming as I promised I would, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursdays. It's difficult with load shedding. Last week I had load shedding at the exact same time I normally stream. So I have actually taken away the times and days. Right now it's going to be whenever I can. Thanks to load shedding. I am planning on getting an inverter at some point in my life. So hopefully that will resolve the issue. But for now, I'm not going to commit really to certain days because I've had to move shows, last week, move to this week or next week. So just keep an eye out on my channel if you enjoy this content, and you'll know. You should know well in advance. And I usually, if you follow me on social media, you'll also get a notification. If you're part of the Telegram group, you also get a notification. So there's ways where you can find out when my next show will be. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of shows, I have a one-man stand-up comedy show coming up in July, still a whiles away. But, you can start booking tickets now because there's only 40 seats available, ladies and gentlemen. So it's going to be a very intimate venue. Well, obviously, because of these stupid regulations that we have at the moment, the venue can only have 50%. I'm hoping that these regulations will go away, and hopefully you can have a full house of 80 people, and I can open more tickets. But until then, it's going to be 40 people. So get your tickets now. Link in the description. And the show is going to be directed by the one and only Barry Hilton, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, the legend will be directing the show. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're working on it already, and it's going to be a very fun show. You don't want to miss out. 30th of July, 2022, ladies and gentlemen. Note it in your diary. I'm finally back on the stage in my next one-man show, Crossing the Borders. That's the title of the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to be solo live for very long. Usually it's a 2-hour show. I've cut it down to an hour and a half. Just for tonight, I'm extremely tired. But I am here, and I really wanted to have this discussion tonight with Phil Craig and Jack Miller, who are going to be joining me later. And before you start shouting in the live or chats or in the comment section saying, but why don't you have Cape Exit? Why isn't Freedom Front Plus part of this? Why isn't ULA part of this? I asked, okay? Freedom Front Plus never got back to me. And what's the other one? Cape Exit couldn't make it, scheduling conflicts, okay? And ULA, well, I'm not at liberty to say, but suffice to say, it just didn't work out. So I asked, these are the guys that were able to make it. That's what's happening. And I know that later on people are still going to bring it up, so I'll bring it up then as well. But for those of you that are watching now, thank you so much. I see some of you already in the comments. Gavin is here. Hello, good evening, Gavin. It was good to see you. Dylan, also good to see you. And thank you, Gavin, for sharing the tickets to my one-man show. The link. So if you're in the live chats, go check it out. But it's also in the description. You'll need to go to my website, but it's my website. It's like right there. When you go to my website, it's on the homepage. You can't miss it. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, very quickly, there's a few things, if you're new to the show, then I usually talk about general things at the beginning before my guests join me. So sometimes I'll see some interesting headlines and we'll discuss it. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. But at 8 o'clock my guests will be joining, ladies and gentlemen. And do drop your comments in the live chats. I do try and get to them. Barden saying, do you ever do shows in Joburg? A lot of people have been asking me about that. Probably once I refine this show with Barry, I'll probably will take it on tour, go around the country, hopefully maybe Durban, Port Elizabeth, or Klebeja, and Joburg, Pretoria, somewhere there. Would love to. So we'll see how the first evening goes. And then the male Jody Taylor. That's a funny name. Evening, the male Jody Taylor. All right, so thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like I said, Jack Miller and Phil Craig will be joining me at 8 o'clock. But before they do, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that vape, here's some interesting information. There's going to be new rules to vaping. Now, a lot of this stuff is not that important. It's like they want to regulate vaping, so they want to introduce rules and for example, you're only allowed to have X amount of batteries on your vape, and your vape wattage should be X amount, and so they're going to regulate it basically, right? Which is what the ANC loves to do, is regulate things. But I thought this was the important part for people to know. Taxes. They're fighting for them to put more taxes on e-cigarettes, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a doozy of note. Where is it? So they want to put a new tax on vaping products that to introduce a new tax on vaping products of at least 2.92 Rand 90 per milliliter from 1 January 2023, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're a vapor, it doesn't sound like a lot, but you're talking about 60 mils and 120 mils, depending on how big you buy your juice. Some of them are even bigger than that. 2.9 Rand adds up quite a bit. Quite a bit. So, yeah. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up. You can have a look for yourself there. This is all being discussed at the moment. The prices are insane. But, of course, the ANC trying to milk South Africa for all it can, and now they're targeting taxes. But that's not all they're targeting, ladies and gentlemen, because in case you didn't hear, shock fuel price awaits South Africans as minister says no to further tax relief. So we're not getting tax relief on the fuel. There was a request for that. Minister said no. Which means, ladies and gentlemen, oh boy. This would mean that motorists face a scenario of paying up to 3.70, so 3 Rand 70 cents per liter more in June, which would bring the total amount of your petrol price to, I think 25 Rand or 24 Rand per liter, ladies and gentlemen. Somewhere in that vicinity. It's like 24 point something, 25 Rand, almost 25 Rand in June. So everything is going to go up, right? Everything is going to go up. Food's going to go up. Everything, just like food's everything, restaurants, when you go out, everything is just gonna go up. 25 Rand. Woo, it hurts. It really hurts. It's too dark here. Let me just, that's a little bit better. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section as I look at the comment section or the live chats. Did you get the pics of Cape Exit? Yes, I did. Thank you so much, Kevin. They were awesome. Very, very awesome photos. I will share them at some point. Sorry, man. It's been a crazy few weeks as well. Voots, giving a bit of a wave. Hello, Voot. More Grok Show. How are you, buddy? Sup, Joe? The government can go suck. You're being too kind. That's chaos right there. Yep. But the rest of Africa is like 5 to 6 Rand a liter. Screw the ANC. Exactly. exactly. So I had an interesting chat with someone who knows a lot about cars as well, because everything goes up, right? Your import tax goes up. Everything goes up when petrol goes up. And this guy that I was chatting to, he told me cars, right? So like South Africa is very expensive when it comes to cars. Like I was looking at getting a Bucky, okay? Like not now, in the future, like maybe 2-3 years from now. So I was just like, oh, okay, what kind of Bucky would I like? And everyone was telling me like, get a Hilux. They're reliable and they're cheaper than Ford or anyone else. No, they're not. Whoever told me that did not know what they were talking about. It is crazy expensive. And then I asked someone who knows about cars, and I said, like, okay, why is it so expensive? And they said, well, 3/4 of it is levies and tax. I was like, okay, so in other words, if a car is worth $1 million, technically it's only worth 300,000. Just so ANC is getting money from cars because people still buy cars. ANC wants to get money from people who vape. ANC wants to get money from your fuel. So not only do they take money from your car, they take money, like when you buy a car, they're always taking money from you when you put in petrol. Okay? Then they tax you for your food. It's like 15 Rand VAT, right? 15%, sorry, VAT. We are being taxed to absolute death. I don't know if people know this. This is not something that I'm only discovering now. I'm just saying, when you really stack it up, and now they want even more tax. They're still gunning for. This was the thing in the e-cigarette thing that I actually wanted to point out because it reminded me of a few things. So, in the e-cigarette thing proposal, right? I need to explain this. Hold on. So, you guys know I've brought this up before. ANC wants to implement a TV tax. So in other words, the TV license is not working out for them because nobody gives a damn anymore about the TV license. So what they want to do is a TV tax, which means that whether you own a TV or not, whether you own a computer, a cell phone, doesn't matter. Even if you don't own any of that stuff, you're still going to pay a TV tax, which means you pay for your TV license regardless. Okay? They want to do the same thing to e-cigarette people when it comes to nicotine. So get this. The government, because the whole point of the tax on cigarettes is the nicotine and other things as well. But, nicotine is like the main excuse. Like, why are you taxing us? Nicotine. All right. Sin tax. So look at this. The reason the higher ratio for nicotine is to ensure that products with high nicotine concentration levy a relative higher rate compared to lower nicotine products, whilst non-nicotine products also levy an excess duty. So there's a levy on the juices without nicotine. You're being taxed for nicotine though, but when you have a product that doesn't have nicotine, you're still going to be taxed for it. Even though when you smoke that, you're not getting the same effects as you would when you're smoking a nicotine products. Because is it sin tax then? Because nicotine gives you certain, you get relaxed, that's why it's sin tax, right? It's nicotine makes it the sin tax. But now if you eliminate that, it's like, which I guess they do, it's like being taxed. I don't know if this is what happens, but because I never thought about it until now. But it's kind of like being taxed for non-alcoholic drinks. All right? Do they tax non-alcoholic drinks? They probably do, right? But then if they tax non-alcoholic drinks, so your, what's it, Bravia or whatever, that's 0% alcohol. If they tax that, if that's part of sin tax, then you might as well tax the juice, which they kind of do because of the 15% VAT. But still, you know what I mean. There's a tax on top of a tax on top of a tax type of situation. It's just more tax. It's just everything. I can't anymore. So yeah, I mean, whether or not the product has nicotine or not, you're going to be taxed. And then Gavin saying, please don't let them into the weed industry. Too late, my friend. Weed's already being looked at to be regulated and made illegal. I wonder why. Follow the money and you will find out everything. Yeah, no. They're already Anyway, very quickly, because my guests are going to come in about 15 minutes. They're going to join us. We chatted about the fuel thing. So I just wanted to give you guys an update on that. I mentioned cars earlier. So there's a problem right now in the world, which I found hilarious, which is that electric car supplies are running out. Now, apparently, I'm not gonna go through the whole article. It's a very long article, but apparently, to paraphrase heavily, there is a high demand for electric cars in obviously first world countries. Then there was the lockdowns. There was no production, but orders kept going through. So basically, they had higher demand than they could supply. So now, Tesla and other companies are telling countries like, sorry, we can't fulfill your order until 2023. So which is causing like a knock-on effect, because everybody's like, climate change, we need to like fix the earth. But now you can't, because like, even though if you're one of those people, you want to get an electric car so you can be a little bit more environmental friendly, you can't do that because there's no electric cars to buy, right? And this just so happens, this is the whole point of me bringing this up, and this just so happens when Fikile, or Fakile, depending on what you want to call him, announced that he wants to install charging stations for electric cars in South Africa. Besides the fact that load shedding is still happening, right? And that, apparently sabotage at Eskom power stations and cable are being cut, and people are stealing cables and stuff like that, and load shedding is getting worse, right? I mean, they're talking about stage 8 of load shedding, right? So stage 8, by the way, 12 hours of no electricity per day, okay? 12 hours in your day, 24 hours in the day, ladies and gentlemen. Half the day you don't have electricity. When the hell are you going to charge? You can't even charge your inverter, let alone your electric car. And now he wants to implement this stuff. But he also wants to implement this stuff, not only that, when there's load shedding, but when there's a shortage of electric cars. Can someone please smell the corruption? This is just blatant now. That this guy, or the government rather, is trying to implement things it can't implement, but it's all about the money. It's all about the money, because who's going to get tenders to install these charging stations that are not going to even be used, basically, right? Nobody's going to use them. You can't buy an electric car, and even when you buy an electric car, there's load shedding. I mean, you gotta laugh, right? I mean, it's sad. It's sad, but this is the world we live in, ladies and gentlemen. The world we live in. Recharging a vehicle in South Africa will be 2 to 3 days, exactly. Jonathan Wright saying electric cars in South Africa are also categorized as golf carts, so they attract a luxury tax when imported to South Africa. That's a good one. Yeah, that's the point I was trying to make. There's also current silicon production shortage for CPU chips, which has affected the entire industry, from cars to electronics to all PC components, because of lockdowns. Yeah, no, I know that. And look at the shortage is legit, right? There is a problem with, I think the article here with the smart cars was saying it's also something to do with the I don't want to, I can't find it now. But there's also a part that they're waiting for. There's parts that they're waiting for. There's chips that they're waiting for. All that stuff. But you can't. It's like a catch-22 situation. exactly. That's my point. And people have bought, like that's the thing. People have bought, like they pre-ordered, right? So someone during lockdown was like, "I'm gonna do what's good for the environment, and I'm gonna buy an electric car. Yay!" That was 2 years ago. Oh man, no. Oh man, we live by it on this channel, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it's right there. Yes. I'm getting an e-bike. I stay in town, so just grab groceries, etc. Well, that's if you stay in town, that's not a bad idea. I actually wouldn't own a car if I was in town, to be honest. But if you live on the outskirts of town or in rural areas or on a farm, you might need a car. Just saying. But anyway, with all that being said, I decided not to buy a Bucky anytime soon, especially because it's going to be 25 Rand to a liter in June. I'm going to pay for that car like 3 times over in just a year. Oh man, it's so sad. So sad. I'm staying with my little i10. I love it. I don't care what you think. It's my little baby, and I will keep it for as long as possible. At least, yeah, hopefully soon things will turn around. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my guest will be joining me any moment now. They're gonna join. Might have a bit of a break. We might do that. Just a short, 5-minute kind of break. But for the time being, that's pretty much all the headlines I wanted to look. I just saw I'm thinking hey, these are some of the headlines that people may want to know about. But yeah, Zach Alden is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Sup, kids? Sup, Zachary? I got your email, man. Yeah. I must respond to it. Smoke break. I don't smoke anymore. But yeah. So, better content doesn't write itself. Get told to buy an electric vehicle, get taxed massively, no incentives, and even if you buy it, have no electricity to charge it, and still have a carbon tax. Now you're thinking like a politician, my friend. Now you're thinking like the governments. Oh, man. Thanks for the chat. It's very cool. Yeah, thanks, Gavin, for tuning in. Like I said, I normally do this for an hour before the show, and then we have my guests on. But yeah, things just with load shedding and everything that's happening, it's just been a bit rough, man. I was supposed to have Germ on the show last night, and unfortunately, we couldn't make it. So I've moved him to next week. I think it's Tuesday next week. He'll be on the show. So if you guys want to see Germ, he'll be on my show next week, Tuesday. I've got Herman Ruros, who is supposed to be yesterday. No, Herman Ruros is tomorrow evening, ladies and gentlemen. No, is he tomorrow evening? Wow. See, that's how confused I am. I know he was supposed to happen, then we moved because of load shedding. There's a lot of good guests coming up, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, stick around and subscribe and hang out with me. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you just tuning in, unfortunately, I can't stick to the Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday schedule anymore. I will probably stay to Thursday. Every Thursday there will be a show because it's with other comedians. But because of load shedding, Monday and Tuesday, I don't know. We'll have to see how it happens every week. I might end up doing shows on a Wednesday, sometimes on a Friday, Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, Thursday. I don't know. We're just going to have to see how it goes. So that's why I'm not sticking to a specific schedule anymore. But if you're subscribed and you hit the bell, you'll be notified when I go live. And it's always an interesting conversation, ladies and gentlemen. I had Barry Hilton on the show last week. I had Charnay I forgot her last name, but she was a very interesting person talking about the Khoisan. Yeah, I've had some other interesting guests, and I got future interesting guests coming on as well. Any moment now, my guests are going to join me in the green room, and I will go on a quick 5-minute break, ladies and gentlemen. But I will only go on a break once they're in the green room. I just want to get to some of the comments. Zach asking, what did you think of the video? If I remember correctly, I don't think I can play it. Man, YouTube is a weird one, man. I'll watch it again. I remember it was funny. Oh, yes, it was funny. I'm just a little bit worried that some people might think it's insensitive. Insensitive? Can't remember. But yeah, I'll have it I'll watch it again. Maybe I'll show it to the guys beforehand and we'll see if we can play it. I found it funny, but at the same time, some people may not react that way. And then Jonathan saying, I like how government says not to worry about stage 8, but why even mention it if we shouldn't worry about it? Exactly. You know what it is, Jonathan? This is what they're going to do. They're going to make you panic about stage 8, right? They're going to make you go like, oh no, I hope we don't go to stage 8. Then they're going to just hit us with stage 6. So that we're like, oh, well, thank God it's not stage 8, right? That's usually how it works. This is what they did with lockdowns, right? They would threaten level 5, and then we'd get level 3, and we were like, oh, at least it's not level 5. So that's probably what's going to happen. I'm just waiting for my other guest to join, but the one guest is in the green room, ladies and gentlemen. So I am quickly going to have a little bit of a break. Just very quickly, but before I do, ladies and gentlemen, let me please I just want to remind some of the people watching. I'm just looking for something quickly. Let's see here. Sorry, something's come up on my screen. I need to. Come on. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be right back. I'm just waiting for the other guest to join, and he should be joining quite shortly. So we're going to go on a quick, probably less than 5-minute break. And yeah, you guys will be back. And when we're back, we're going to have Jack Miller, and we're going to have Phil Craig, and we're going to talk about the Cape Independence Movement. And it's going to be very important, ladies and gentlemen. A large portion of the show is going to be a section where, during the whole show, please, you guys can ask questions anytime, and we will answer them. Also, I want it to be like a Q&A as well. So use it as such, ladies and gentlemen. And yeah, it should be. We should have a great time. So you be ready to ask these guys anything you want to. We'll be right back after this break. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. While we're having a bit of a break and while we're here, I just thought I would let you guys know that you can become a member to this channel. When you become a member to this channel, there are 2 tiers. There's the Support Act and the Headliner Act. Each tier has its own perks. I'm not going to go into all the details right now, but just click on the join button, usually right next to the subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed yet, by the way, subscribe. If you want to become a member, it would be greatly appreciated. It really goes a long way to supporting the channel and helping me to continue to create content for you guys. And just in case you might be interested, for some of you who may not know, I am also a stand-up comedian, and I have a one-man show coming up in June of this year. There is a link in the description with all the details that you need to know, when, where, and how much, so please go check it out in the description below. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show. I told you it wasn't going to be too long. I am here with Phil Craig from the Cape Independence Advocacy Group and the future president of the Western Cape, Jack Miller. I'm kidding. I kid. Well, maybe. I don't know. We'll see what the future holds. But he is part or the head of Cape Independence Party. Has joined us. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, it is kind of an open discussion with you guys. Those of you that are watching, please, especially those that are in doubt of this movement, we want to answer any of your questions. And I want to address something very quickly, Phil and Jack, if you don't mind. I did invite other people onto this because I know people are going to message me now in the live and say like, oh, where's Cape Exit? Oh, where's Freedom Front Plus? I invited them. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it. So we still have two great panelists on the show, ladies and gentlemen, two parties or not parties, but organizations and a party that were part of organizing the march that we had not too long ago, and that's what we're going to be talking about, and then we're going to be talking about some other things. So yeah, during the show, ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to ask anything about the Cape Independence Movement. We're happy to answer. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and Phil and Jack, let's start from the very beginning. Firstly, maybe Jack, I'd like to hear your opinion on this. The march that happened 27th of April, how do you feel about it? And do you think it was successful?
Oh, absolutely, without any shadow of a doubt, it was a huge, huge success. You know, we certainly give great credit to Phil and his team at the CIAG for certainly carrying the burden of that, and they did a brilliant job. And I think all of the Cape Independence organizations came out in full force. And anyone who's seen the videos or who was there on the day can see what a huge success it was. And you know, as Phil said on the day, we were there for a reason, and we were there to deliver a strong message to the DA and to Alan Wendy, and we certainly did that. And if you look at how things have progressed, I said this in my speech on the day, but if you look at how things have progressed from 15 years ago when we began this to where Cape Independence is now, obviously we'll talk more about this a bit later, but you know, we and Cape Independence is for the first time represented in government. So we're seeing shifts across the political spectrum. I think across the people's social feelings about Cape Independence. And I think the march on the 27th was a personification of where we are now and where we're heading.
Yeah, I mean, I covered it on this channel. For those of you who want to watch it, it is on my YouTube homepage. You just got to scroll a bit down. You'll see Cape Independence March. It's in three parts, which is before the march itself, and then the speeches. So there's part three being the speeches. And the speeches were amazing. The vibe, this is why I was so excited for it, because the vibe is always such a jolt, man. It's like so much fun to go to these marches. It brings me to Phil. You know, how does CIAG feel about the march? You guys feel like you hit the numbers you wanted to? Did you exceed expectation? How do you guys feel now?
No, look, I think it was a success, and I would echo Jack's comments. I think it was very kind of him to give credit to us, but I mean it was a collective thing, and we all, you know, for those that don't know, we organised a march committee, and all of the independence organisations sat together on that, and we pulled that together. And I think it was, you know, it was exactly what we wanted. We wanted to have a vibrant and significant March presence, show people that Cape Independence is is very much alive and kicking. And I think there are always certain boxes that you want to sort of tick off on that. And I think, you know, it's difficult. People always question, what's going on in the Cape Independence space. And when marches like that happen, I think what's really great, and you touched on it beforehand, Joe, and thankfully just now, is that spirit. I think for people who come, they can capture the spirit of Cape independence. And obviously there's all sorts of cheap accusations. We're constantly being accused of being racist, having agendas, of being non-inclusive, and all sorts. And you can only make that argument if you haven't been to one of the marches. And I think that if I think, well, look, great, it was fantastic, that the highlights of the march were first and foremost that once again we had this completely diverse, politically diverse, ethnically diverse, culturally diverse, group of people who are all standing together for a better future, and a kind of, at the end of the day, completely embodied everything that we want to create. And I think that was just always is so important, because once you see it with your eyes, then it's harder to think. And I think also for the other highlight really was standing outside of the provincial parliament when we handed over the referendum, and it was actually hard to get your words out, and people were just spontaneously shouting and screaming, and wanting to know where is Windy,
Where is Windy?
and free the Cape, and and it was hard actually to make yourself heard, and you had to constantly keep stopping just because people were so, and there was a sort of a healthy nervousness amongst the police and the people receiving the referendum, because actually this was a baying crowd for Cape independence, completely peaceful, no arrests, nothing damaged, a really vibrant thing. But actually, those people were there to make themselves heard, and they really did themselves proud. And were we happy with it? I'm always 90% happy. I think it was absolutely fantastic. It was brilliant. I think there's always a question, and it's always a challenge in Cape Independence is to all of the closet supporters who think that somebody else is going to deliver it. There's always that. Where were you? And I say that at the end of the day, there's still too many people in South Africa, not just for Cape Independence, who expect somebody else to do the hard yards. And actually, this is a big ask. It's deliverable, but we all have to stand up and do it together. So I think absolutely a 9 out of 10. It was absolutely brilliant. And the missing 10 wasn't us. It's the people who are always stuck on their couches, thinking, I really wanted to come, but
Yeah.
and I'll come next time.
Yeah, this leads me on to my next question for you. What were the final numbers in attendance, and was it more than the previous March?
Well, it was way more than the previous March. So I think in the previous March we estimated numbers to be somewhere around about the 500, which was the maximum we were allowed. And on this occasion, we were past 1,000. What the exact number was is difficult to estimate. But I mean, you could see we took up about half of Long Street, and that's probably the best sort of measure of where you are. When the camera picked up the start, you couldn't see the end.
Yes.
But so I don't know. I'm guessing 1,200. I don't know what the number. I'm not sure it really matters. But it was a lot of people.
No, it matters in the sense of, like, to your point that you're making earlier. It shows that the movement is growing. It shows that there are more and more people, while may not be as much as we would like, saying, you know what, I am going to go and be a part of this movement. I am going to go and join this march. I am going to go and make my voice heard. And like we mentioned, it's a very diverse group of people, people from all walks of life, which is amazing to see. And people that, again, just, I think, also came to enjoy the good vibe, because the people there weren't burning anything or stopping. Well, we did stop traffic, but legally. I just think it's a very good vibe, and I think people really enjoyed it. Jack, you were in front of the march for most of the time, and how has the response been for the Cape Party? I mean, have you seen more people inquiring about the Cape Party after this march? Has it gotten you a little bit more eyes, if I can put it that way?
Look, I think from our point of view, Cape Independence has been consistently growing. I think the greatest amount of interest certainly was obviously last year in the elections. We find that elections, regardless of whether it's local or provincial or national, is a time when the country and people become far more politically and socially engaged. So I wouldn't say that this march increased it more from a from a core point of view, I think we certainly saw great increases in support last year. Uh, you know, the elections basically only ended for us last week. We've been in a battle with the IEC now for the last 7 months over votes which they claimed weren't cast for us. But I suppose we'll go into more details later. But certainly the march was a nice cherry on the top, and I think it was one of the many things that we're involved in that I think lends credence to the idea of Cape independence and the strength of this idea.
Absolutely. Well, let's like I said, ladies and gentlemen, just want to remind people who are just tuning in. You're allowed to ask us anything, especially Phil and Jack, very big supporters of the Cape Independence movement. Please feel free to ask these guys anything about Cape Independence. This is your opportunity. Anything at all, we'll happily answer. And just very quickly, Germ is in the audience, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome, Germ, and he says, "Jack, you owe me a lunch date." So, yeah. No, maybe, I don't know. Is there bromance happening there?
Well, I think he owes me, but no, I'm actually I do owe Jim a lunch. I think we're going to head out to grab a nice steak
Oh,
at
nice.
out near Stellenbosch. So
Oh,
Jim,
nice.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the next one's on me.
There we go. Jerm will also be on my show next week, ladies and gentlemen, so don't miss out on that. Okay, so Jack, you mentioned your debacle there. Let's get into that. So, what exactly happened? So, from what I understand, and you can correct me, basically miscount. I don't know if it was fraudulent or not, but there was a miscount. Cape Independence Party did win one seat, but apparently you've won two now. So tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And frankly, I mean, we knew that we won more than one seat from the get go. It was late into the night on the 1st November, going to 2nd of November, where we started getting feedback from our troops on the ground that some things weren't adding up. And we had certain strongholds where the IEC was reporting we got 0 votes. We had party agents which witnessed us getting multiple votes inside voting stations. And then when they checked the next morning, the IEC report said that we had 0 votes. So we were alerted to there being a problem quite early on. And we did our best to notify the relevant authorities in the IEC, literally from the get-go. It's unbelievable the types of restrictions and limitations that are placed on parties. You've got 48 hours. It's not even 48 hours. You've got until 5 o'clock, 2 days after an election, to lodge a complaint. The IEC hadn't even finished counting. We were at around 52% of all votes counted at 5 o'clock on the second day, on the Wednesday after the election. So we had to put in an objection based on the information that we had at that time. Then, when all the numbers were finally counted from the IC, we could assess the full damage, and it then began an unbelievable process. I mean, I'm not going to bore your listeners with it, but I mean, we were up sleep. I mean, some of us didn't sleep for 2-3 days straight. It was really intense. And I've just got to say a huge thank you. When you're in these political battles, it does feel it really it warmed the heart to have our supporters and voters literally fighting with us out there. We would not have been able to have won our court case if it wasn't for all the signed affidavits and letters and emails and Facebook messages we got from Cape Independence supporters who said, "We voted for you, our whole family voted for you. It's impossible that it's 0 in this voting station." So we spent the next few days compiling all of this information, taking it to the IEC, and eventually it got to the point where we had to take them to court, and we won our court case. We wouldn't have won it without the support of all those people who voted for us and sent us those signed affidavits. And following the victory in that court battle, which cost us a pretty penny and wasted a lot of people's time. But at the end of the day, there was a final recount which took place 2 weeks ago, and once the dust had settled, we are now comfortably in that second seat position. So we did experience some of these problems in other parts of the Western Cape. But we didn't have the volumes and volumes of evidence that we had here in the city of Cape Town, and that really goes thanks out to the Cape Independence Party teams, all of our party agents, all of our members who were there counting votes into the night, and then obviously our supporters who helped us compile the evidence we needed to win our court case. So it's we're really happy about it. It's a huge victory. It makes a big difference for us moving forward. It's twice the amount. It's 100% more of voices in Parliament pushing for Cape independence overtly, and and so yeah, this is I think the beginning of a great run up to the next elections, and pushing Cape independence as hard as we can.
Yeah, Jack. There's no doubt that Cape Independence is growing, and I really am very happy for you guys. I mean, it's a monumental moment for you guys. You know, I mean, they finally got a seat, two seats. You're in government. It's something, right? It means you're giving people a voice. I just want to be a bit of devil's advocate here, you know, because there are people out there that will say, okay, cool, you got two seats, but, you know, there's people like Cape Exit or organizations like Cape Exit who say there's 800 or over 800,000 people who have signed up. Shouldn't you then see that same amount voting for the Cape Independence Party? That, you know, like, it feels like Cape Party is almost not hitting the mark when it comes to the public. Like, I don't know if it's the image, I don't know what it is, but I feel like it should be more. And I'm not saying that it's all completely to blame on IEC and not counting properly. I'm not saying it's all to blame on you or your party per se, but we have to look at this and ask, like, okay, so we know there's a certain amount of people that do support Cape independence. What do you have to say to those people that are like, yeah, you guys aren't really serious, or you guys aren't really that good because you don't have all that support, if you understand what I'm trying to say?
Well, I think I do. I mean, you know, when we started this 15 years ago, we couldn't be more serious. If we weren't serious, we wouldn't still be here after 15 years. And, you know, frankly, we throw in the kitchen sink at this idea with limited funds, limited resources, limited manpower. You know, unfortunately, you know, there's some that believe that a vote for other political parties who might be new to jump on this bandwagon, or parties like the DA would be equivalent as voting for the Cape Independence Party when it comes to Cape Independence, just because we heard, you know, good sounds from them in the last elections. I might want to add that the DA also gave us very good sounds in the 2019 elections. They told us they were going to give us a provincial police force and a provincial railway service. Well, here we are now 3 years later, and they've done absolutely nothing. So those are two Cape Independence Party policies: a provincial police force and a provincial railway. So the DA took two of our policies. People believed them, voted for them in the 2019 elections, and the DA has done nothing since then. Unfortunately, we did see in this last 2021 elections, um, you know, political parties play the game of politics, and there are parties that came out which made noises, which sounded good, which sounded like pro Cape independence. But when the rubber hits the road, we certainly in the last 27 years, 28 years, haven't seen any other political party really fight for Cape independence as seriously as we have and will and always will. So I think unfortunately there was maybe mixed messages in the last elections, and certain people and the majority of voters who, let's be honest, are DA voters, would have felt, okay, I want to vote for Cape independence, but I'm so scared that not voting for the DA will let the ANC get in. So therefore, let me just do the safe vote and continue to vote for the DA or some other political party which claims to be in favor of Cape independence. So I think that hurt us. We obviously hope in elections to come that those people who are in favor of Cape independence will really see what we bring to the table, and how, if we really want Cape independence in government and those who are in power to give us that referendum that we're fighting for, we're going to have to hold their feet to the fire. And we can't mince our words, and we're going to have to put Cape independence front and center. And frankly, the Cape Independence Party always has and always will do that.
Understood. Phil, I'm going to give you a moment to comment, but I just want to address this with Chris Wyatt. Chris Wyatt, thank you so much for tuning in, buddy. I hear you're in Europe, and I hope it's going well over there and that you're safe on your travels. He says, Cape Party is not a secession movement. Don't mix political parties with movements. Joe, I'm not. I understand that Cape Exit is not a party, and they're very clear on that. I understand that Cape Party is a party because it's in their name, Cape Independence Party, and they're the only ones that you can really vote for when it comes to the ballot. I understand that. I'm just saying that it feels like there's a bit of a disconnect between the amount of people that some organizations say that support Cape Independence and what we're somewhat kind of seeing when it comes to voting for Cape Independence. But Jack brings up a good point. I mean, I'm one of those people that would vote strategically, maybe not now, but had I had a chance previously, voted strategically because of the whole wasting a vote situation. So I understand that point, and I think you have a valid point there, Jack, as well. Phil, would you agree with that, or what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, a difficult one. I think there are parts of it that I would agree with, and there would be parts of it that I would disagree with. I think yeah, the political environment around Cape Independence is maturing and it's developing. I think the wider movement in terms of that and is changing, and I think we have to be cognizant of what the political space is there. I think there's some challenges, but I think it's fair to say, and I hope this is sort of taking the spirit's meant. I think from our point of view, we probably were disappointed with the number of votes that the Cape Independence Party got, and I think from our perspective, what's the right way? I'm trying to sort of to find the right way here. Look, we obviously supported. I mean, so let's come back from the CIG point of view, and that's probably the safest way to address that. We support all parties who support Cape independence. So first and foremost, so for the 2019 elections, we produced a voting guide. We contacted all of the political parties. We asked all of the parties what was their position on Cape independence. And what was their position on supporting a referendum, or whether the people of the Western Cape had a choice. There were three parties that came out, and so actually the fourth, but that was a very small one. So there were three significant parties who said they supported Cape independence, which was the Cape Independence Party, the Freedom Front Plus, and the Cape Coloured Congress. And we sectioned those off as one section and said, look, actually, if we want to see people ideally vote for Cape independence parties, and these are the three parties that you should vote for here. And then we gave a second list of people who the parties that said, okay, we're willing to support a referendum on Cape independence, and even if we don't necessarily support Cape independence ourselves. And there were another five parties, I think, that said that accounted for them. So I think that I think that's our kind of approach to here. I know Jack and I. It's a point that we have a different. Our perspective is that the Cape Independence Party, the Freedom Front, and the Cape Coloured Congress, to a slightly lesser extent, are all had Cape Independence, secession of the Western Cape, in their manifestos, and I think they represented different brands from there. And I think one of the challenges, look, we're a political lobby group, so we have a different focus on Cape independence to other organisations. And primarily our focus is how do we use the prevailing political environment to advance the pursuit of Cape independence. We all agree we want Cape independence, and from as a lobby group, we sit down and say, well, what needs to happen next? What's the plan? How are we going to deliver Cape independence? And I think one of the things that us and the Cape Party and myself and Jack personally have always agreed on is we feel that political pressure is absolutely the critical part of that thing. I think ultimately, without political pressure on the government of the day, the Western Cape government, we're not going to deliver Cape independence. And I think so I think a lot of things were aligned. I think from my personal perspective, I was disappointed in the performance of the Cape Independence Party. I think perhaps the other two independence parties performed better electorally. They both got more or less 3% of the vote, as opposed to the sort of 0.5%, or perhaps it's a bit more now, 0.6 or whatever it is from the Cape Party. And I don't think I'm sort of speaking out of turn, because obviously I know Jack well, and we've sort of discussed this sort of privately. My fear personally for the Cape Party is that they're probably too narrow in terms of their focus. I think that they're quite ideologically based, and I think because they're quite ideologically based, they're probably at odds with the average Cape Independent supporter. And I think if I looked and said, look, there's our polling showed maybe 1.2, 1.3 million people who are, let's say, sympathetic towards Cape independence, Cape exits numbers or whatever they are. And then we look back and say, right, of that 1.2 million or that 800,000, how many people came and voted for the Cape Party? And I think the number was about 10,000. There's a disconnect. Those people are voting. So I would love to see the Cape Party and the other parties finding a way to get that share of the vote. And I think Jack is quite right in talking about the other issues. I think there are issues in terms of, first and foremost, I think people's first voting intention for most people is to keep the ANC out of the Western Cape. And I think there's a general recognition that whilst the DA aren't perfect, that they've done a pretty good job of running the Western Cape and managing the Western Cape. So, and I think that there becomes first and foremost. And I think my challenge would be that from if we're going to do better politically as a movement, we've got to find a way of connecting with those DA voters, predominantly DA voters, and saying, well, look, hang on a second, this is a proposal that reassures you on your concerns and actually suggests you that a vote for us and our party will be a safe vote and will deliver what you want. And I think there are probably, if I'm honest, I'm trying to pick my words because I want to be careful. I don't want to be offensive to Jack in any way. But if I'd campaigned, I would have campaigned differently to the Cape Independence Party. Let's put it that way. That probably then, obviously, I don't run a political party. I don't have to do that. And obviously, Jack must campaign the way that he wants to. But I think that 10,000 votes was very disappointing, and I would have liked to have. I think perhaps if we campaigned, or if the Cape Party had campaigned on a slightly broader ticket, they perhaps would have got more votes.
Fair enough. Jack, is there anything you want to say to? Because Phil said a lot. Is there anything you want to say to that?
Yeah, sorry.
Look, I think if people listen closely to what I said earlier, it's probably as clear as I could have been on it. It's easy to talk about we in one sentence and then identify issues on a individual basis and the others. So I think there's a disconnect with some of the things that were said there. And during the elections, the DA and some of these other parties were considered Cape Independence pro parties, and now following the elections, well they aren't, and now let's just say, well, we should have done more than 10,000 votes. Goodness me, I agree. I think it'd be great to have more than 10,000 votes, but at the end of the day, if the Cape Independence movement as a whole is seriously understands how we're going to get a referendum, it's absolutely through the political and legal routes. And the only party that can deliver that to us or rather the only person that can deliver that to us, is the Premier of a province. And currently that's the DA's Premier Alan Winde. So until we get the DA either 100% on board with Cape Independence, which frankly is not going to happen unless you put enough pressure on them. And the only way you can put pressure on them is by challenging them at the ballot box. So if we had a more unified approach leading up to the elections, so it's a bit, I don't know, it's easy to talk now following the elections, when up to the elections, the DA was considered a good vote because they were going to give us a referendum on independence. Well, now that the elections are over, they've gone very quiet. So you can trust the DA on election year and then give the Cape Independence Party a hard time after election year. But one thing we've always been for 15 years is honest, sincere, dedicated to fighting for the Cape Independence cause. Maybe other people in the Cape Independence movement will wake up one day and realize that. Otherwise, we're hoping that voters certainly, we've made our breakthrough. We're going to continue to make more breakthroughs. 2024, we're looking forward to that. And until people also realize that the DA has to be pushed underneath 50% if we want to hold them to account. That's the only way that we can guarantee this. Yes, it's possible that if one has enough private dinners and lunches and woos the DA enough, that they'll come around to seeing it from our point of view. But unfortunately, I've been in politics a long time. I don't really trust politicians, and I think I'd much rather force the DA to give us a referendum. And I certainly know 100% that if the Cape Independence Party is holding the balance of power and the DA is sitting underneath 50% on 49, 48, 47, I can guarantee with every fiber in my body that we're going to force the DA to give us a referendum on Cape independence. So that we can guarantee everyone in the Cape independence space and everyone who believes in what we're fighting for.
Yeah, look, guys, I see the chats are going a bit crazy because I've played devil's advocate. And I can't always, it's not always kumbaya. We have to have some tough conversations, but I think we're all on the same page because at the end of the day, the three of us and everybody else involved in the Cape independence movement want an independent Cape. We want a more prosperous province or country, because it's going to be a country once it gets independence, for not just us but our future children, and maybe finally get the Rainbow Nation we were promised way back when. Having said that, Jack, I agree with everything you say. Like, I think there are. I think what people need to realize is, like you said, it's easy to, criticize Cape Independence Party afterwards, but there's politicking involved. That's basically what the DA did. They saw that the Cape Independence movement was rising, was getting a lot of traction. People were talking about it. I mean, there was articles almost every week, every month. People were talking about Cape independence, and the DA just capitalized on it and said, hey, we might go that way, and then got their votes, stayed in power. Now they're like, wait, did we say that? But that's again,
and they did the same thing in 2019. That's exactly what they did. I mean, everyone who lives here in Cape Town, or they would have seen the DA posters saying, vote for the DA, we're going to give you a provincial police force and a provincial railway. Well, they've had 3 years going on 4 years to give us a referendum, which would grant us these powers. What have they done since 2019? What have they done? Absolutely nothing. So they promised Phil last year that they would give him a referendum on Cape independence. What have they done? Nothing. Well, so at a certain point, politics is a nasty game. You got to determine who you can trust and who you can't trust. And we certainly don't have the same amount of money as the DA or some of these other larger political parties. But that's changing. We're now in government, 2X, and we're going to get bigger. We're going to get stronger. And we are as unfaltering in our view and vision for Cape independence as we ever have been.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this we'll move on to the next question, which I see a few people have been asking, when will we know? This kind of goes on to what I want to talk to you guys about next, but we'll take it in steps. So I think the first thing that everybody's asking is, we spoke earlier about the march. We said it was to give a referendum to Alan Winde. He chickened out. He wasn't there. And which led to an amazing moment of people shouting outside of the offices saying, where's Winde? But the point of this question is, and I'll ask you, Jack, first. What's next? I mean, how do we know, when is this referendum going to happen? What happens now? Like, what's the process here? He's gotten the referendum, or he's gotten this request to implement the referendum. How exactly do you pressure them? How exactly do you make sure that the referendum is going to happen?
Well, it's really very simple, and we've made our blueprint public knowledge for a very long time. It's the bottom line is, if the people of the Cape want a referendum on Cape independence, they're going to have to force those in power into a position that they will give it to them. The DA has had a free ticket for the last 2 decades. We are a political vehicle that intends to roll up inside government and really make things difficult, because it's one thing to promise people things every election cycle. It's another thing to actually deliver on those promises. And so until voters stop giving the DA a blank check and push them underneath 50% to get them to a point where we can hold them to account and say, we will not give you that majority until you give the people of the Cape a referendum on Cape independence. Unfortunately, that's the sad reality. And we can live in fantasy or we can live in reality. Those who live in a fantasy world believe that you can show to the government, pieces of paper or letters and emails of support and things like that that say, look, this is how many people support this idea. Please give us a referendum. The bottom line is you have to do things within the constitutional structure, the legal structure of the country, as well as through political pressure. And so that's certainly where the CIAG and the Cape Independence Party, I think, are on quite a similar page, in that we understand that these are the routes that need to be taken in order to achieve this. So what we need to do is what we have been doing, and certainly we hit the ground running in the last 6 months. Perhaps our more dedicated supporters will be aware of some of the things that the Cape Independence Party have implemented since we got into government in the city of Cape Town. For being only a one seat, now 2-seat party, we've really shaken things up already. We put forward a proposal to decentralize sub-council powers down to the ward level. And what the DA wanted to do, in fact, they and the ANC put forward a proposal to reduce sub-councils from 24 to 23. We were the only political party in the city of Cape Town to put forward the proposal to decentralize powers, and such decentralization that we wanted to see the sub-councils move from 24 to 116. This would have given unprecedented amount of powers to your taxpayer, your voters, your residents living in Cape Town. So we pushed the DA. We almost beat them in that. We got, when it went to public participation process, we got 31% of the vote, and the DA just managed to get 51% of the vote. It was a 2-horse race. There were no other political parties that even showed in this. And frankly, if we'd had a week or more to campaign, we probably could have even beaten the DA on this. So just with having a seat in government and now having more than one seat in government, we're able to use that position to push forward policies which otherwise would never see the light of day. So going from 0 to 1 is far more than just appearing. It's actually, it's an exponential increase in the magnitude of attention and interest and energy that we can allocate to not just Cape independence, but one of our policies has always been decentralization and reducing powers down to local communities. So just in the last 6 months, we've already put forward proposals to do this. Now with our next seat, Chief Whip, Party Whip, Adrian Kay, as well as Alderman Corin Brainard, they're going to put together a hotline system where anyone who lives in the city of Cape Town can contact us directly at the Cape Independence Party to put forward any issues they have within their wards, within their communities, and we will put those issues on the table in the city of Cape Town. So we really plan to live up to who what we fought for the last 15 years, and that is to be a decentralized party. You can have no greater decentralization than Cape independence or independence in general. And so we walk the walk, we talk the talk, and we're going to deliver the promises that we gave our voters. And we hope that going into 2024 and beyond, voters are going to see that this is the only way that we can break out of this political system. And we don't need to be as big as the DA. The Cape Independence Party could simply be a 2, 3, 4, 5% party, and that would be enough. The DA is currently sitting on 58%. They are narrowly above that 50% mark. If we can just get them below that 50% mark, the Cape Independence Party doesn't need to be 50%. Like I said, 2, 3, 4%, we can have balance of power and force the DA to give us the referendum that the majority of people in the Cape want. So I think we're doing very well. Obviously, one always could do better. We hope we will do better in future elections, but with the resources that we have, it looks like we've made serious headway into government already, and we're kicking a lot of ass.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you guys are sticking to your guns and you're doing what you promised. I mean, that's at the end of the day what people want, right? That's why people are upset with the ANC, is because they promise, but they don't deliver. So I really do wish you, Jack, and the party the best of luck. I mean, really, honestly, and I'll definitely keep an eye on you guys. You know, I always have. But Phil, I want to come to you very quickly before I get to some of the questions that people are asking in the live chats. On fire! Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep the questions coming in. Phil, now that you guys have handed in that letter to Wendy, what is the next step for you guys with CIAG? What are you guys doing? Are you just gonna call Wendy every day and say, "Have you looked at it?" or what's happening?
No, look, I don't. Look, no, it doesn't work that way. And I think I think we as a movement now, we're moving into another phase of Cape independence. And I think it's been an interesting debate. I have to say it's probably I disagree with quite a lot of the things that Jack has just said. And I think as a movement we've got to be quite careful now in terms of what do we want. So let's come back into that space. I think first and foremost, what are our goals? And I think we all agree, and where I absolutely agree with Jack and the Cape Party, is that we need to drive the referendum. And I think that's where the CIAG strategy and the Cape Independence Party strategy has actually been fully aligned, which is the only people who can call a referendum according to the constitution is the Premier of the Western Cape. The government, the premier's a DA premier has been for some time and is likely to be for some time into the future. So therefore, realistically, the only way that we can push for a referendum on Cape independence is to push the DA, and therefore that's the focus of the CIAG. We've pushed hard on the with the DA. We do all that we can to bring pressure. The march is part of that. The run up to the election was part of that. Various discussions are part of that, and we're still busy with that. At the end of the day, that's something that's quite important to us, and fundamentally we share the same strategy there. I think the challenge is we have to offer some political threat. And where I differ with Jack, and I think they've got to be careful. The Cape Party needs to take stock to a certain extent. We're not going to drive the DA into a referendum on Cape independence with 10,000 votes, with half a percent of the vote, and we have to find some way of appealing more broadly. And all the stuff that's going in the council is fantastic, and I think it's great, and I'm glad that sort of these policies have been held to, and I have Jack and his party, obviously have a degree of credibility, and I think it's great that they've stuck to their guns. But first and foremost, from our point of view as a Cape independence movement, what we want to do is we want to deliver this referendum, and we also want to put political pressure onto the DA, and we want to put it on from our side in terms of lobbying. We want to use organisations like Cape Exit. We want to use political parties like the Freedom Front and the Cape Independence Party, and collectively we have to then put pressure onto the DA. And I think that's that's where we are. That's what we're working on, putting pressure onto the DA. And I don't think, from my perspective, one of the things that we're missing, one of the tools that are really missing at the moment, is a political party that's delivering 5% of the vote and capable of it. And I would really love to see, and I'm going to say the point again, I would really love to see the Cape Party broaden its appeal so it's much more inclusive, so that realistically when we get to 2024 there's some realistic prospect of getting 5% of the vote. Because I don't think it helps to have a strategy where you require 5% of the votes to execute your strategy, but actually you can only get 0.5% of the vote. And I think that's something that has to be addressed. I think from the movement we need to work together, and one of the things we're pushing for at the moment behind the scenes, we're pushing for a strategy meeting between the Cape Party, the Freedom Front, Cape Exit, and ourselves to draw a more unified strategy to say, look, we can put pressure onto this government, but we kind of have to work together to put pressure onto the DA. And actually, I think there's two ways to look at that. I think we obviously I've dished out some criticism and I've taken some criticism, and perhaps that's fair. And I think the criticism of the CIAG is always, look, you've been duped by the DA and you've just bought this line. Well, we obviously do a lot of that of the negotiating behind the scenes, and we're there. And I don't believe we've been duped by anybody. I think we've negotiated in good faith. I would say that the other parties, the DA and others, have negotiated in good faith too. And I think what's happened, unfortunately, is post the elections, the focus has shifted. I think the pressure has come off to a certain extent, because I think a lot of people connect support for, rightly or wrongly, they associate support for Cape Independence with the support for the Cape Independence Party. And although we say that isn't, those two aren't inherently linked, that's how people, so that people saying, look, hold on a second, look how few people voted for you. There is nobody that supports Cape Independence, and that's something we have to sort of to deal with on the one side. And I think coming back, we just need to find this collective strategy where we push it, and finding a way to get people. And I agree with Jack. We've got to channel votes towards the Cape Independence parties. So there's two sides to that. The Cape Independence movement has to channel votes towards the Cape Independence parties, but the Cape Independent parties have to put forward broad enough policies that actually the broad movement can get behind them and actually drive people to that. We have policies and parties that actually appeal to the mass Cape Independent supporters as opposed to the fringes. So look, I think that is where we are. I think we need to get into this next phase, and we need to be more strategically aligned. And the political parties and the civic organisations and the lobby groups all need to work together, and we need a much more unified strategy to get the DA under real pressure to get this 5% of the vote or more that we need. Because I agree, I agree, we need to get the DA under 50%. I agree that the balance of power needs to be held by Cape Independent supporters. So I don't think there's any difference in strategy. The question is that how are we actually going to achieve that? What are we going to do that's going to be a step change that doesn't find us sitting here after 2024 saying, oh well, okay, if in 2029 we can get 5% of the vote, because actually we need it now. We need to make these things happen now.
Yeah, again, fair points. I want to just, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to get into the into the nitty gritty of things. But I think you guys have both said your points, clearly. And at the end of the day, I think it's also important for people to realize that the Cape Independence movement is made up of organizations and a political party that, while they kind of do their own thing in the machine itself, they're all part of one machine, if that makes sense. So everybody has a role to play. Cape Independence Advocacy Group is the political pressure group. Cape Independence Party is the political side of things. You guys are in there in the government now, making headway and continue to do so. And you've got some other people like Freedom Front Plus trying to do the same thing, as well as Cape Exit, which handles a different side of the Cape Independence movement. And you all work together to achieve the goal, which is Cape Independence. So I just want to make that clear for everybody that's listening. And also, I want to get to some of the questions that are coming in, because there's a lot at the moment. It's on fire. So thank you guys so much for asking your questions. Let's start with Ronaldo House. Ladies and gentlemen, Ronaldo in the house. I don't know if he's still watching, but he asked this a while ago. He asks, how's it, guys? I might have missed it, but the one question I have that makes me believe it won't happen is, let's say the ANC allows it without bloodshed. What happens with their dams and power stations? Perhaps, Jack, you want to take a jab at that one?
Yeah. I'd like to add to what Phil said there, but I'll do that at a later stage. I mean, to respond to Ronaldo, hope he's doing well. He's done some great videos out there I've seen on YouTube lately, calling it the way it needs to be called. I wouldn't be worried about dams or basically how it works is any territory that declares independence, anything within that territory obviously belongs to the new state, which would then become the governing entity of that territory. So all power stations, all dams, everything that lives and finds itself within the borders of the Cape would become the property of the Cape. So, but at the same time, we're not going to all of a sudden cut off and then float out into the ocean. We're going to be neighbors with the Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, etc., for the rest of eternity. So we intend on having good relationships, and there's nothing better than having good relationships with a place when you've got financial interests. And so we have tremendous bargaining chips here in the Cape, which we can use to negotiate with the ANC government and say that we certainly will provide you goods and services, or power or water, whatever it might be. We can certainly trade, and we will trade, and we'll have good trade relationships with the rest of South Africa. And so the dams and the power stations, those that are within the Cape, those would become ours. I would certainly propose that with the additional revenue, 4 times more revenue than we're currently getting access to here in the Cape, we would allocate that additional revenue to building more power stations, to building more dams, and becoming really a self-sufficient place like Southern Africa certainly once was. So I think with the additional taxes, the additional revenue, we would thrive, and we would certainly use what we currently have as a bargaining chip with the ANC government.
Fantastic. All right, you answered that quite well. So I hope that, that's a common question that comes up almost every time I have a stream. It's not always Ronaldo that asks that, but everybody's always like, yeah, but what about this infrastructure? What about that infrastructure? So thank you, Jack, for clearing that up. Phil, there's a question specifically for you that someone, Rian Brandt, is asking. Says, Phil, still no word on submission of the PMB to change referendum legislation. What is the DA's reason for the delay still? At Phil, they tagged you twice.
So ask the question in ask the question in a week's time. I have an imminent meeting with the DA to find out exactly the answer to that question.
All right, fantastic. And then we've got. Well, okay, so this is more of a general question from male Jody Taylor asking, is Windy still delaying the process to move the referendum forward? I think that, you can, I don't know if you want to say ditto in a sense to your previous answer. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, look, I think very quickly, just to remind people of the situation. So we need to change first of all, before we can call a referendum, we need to change the referendum legislation. The DA promised to bring a bill. They tabled the bill or in the government gazette, but they never actually brought it before Parliament. We went through the comments phase, and actually they promised to bring it. I think probably it was supposed. Well, not probably. It was supposed to be February this year. They haven't brought it. I haven't had a response in terms of why it's not been brought, but that's been escalated, and we're about to find the answer to that imminently, and obviously we'll report back. But that obviously is only the first part of the process. We've got to fix the referendum legislation before we can have a referendum. So we've got 2 bites to that cherry. We've got the DA bill, and obviously if the DA aren't going to bring the bill, then there are other options. For argument's sake, the Freedom Front Plus has the ability to bring the bill. That also would be in the national parliament. But let's I think we want the DA to bring the bill in the first instance, and let's see where we get with that. And then once we have that, then obviously there's the calling of the referendum. Now the DA say they're very keen on calling referendums, not necessarily for our purpose. I think they would prefer not to call a referendum on Cape independence, and it's up to us to make sure that they do. But at the same time, they're keen to call referendums for their own purposes. So I think there's a fair bit of goodwill for fixing the referendum legislation, but it's not going to be an easy cause. And then the other thing, sorry, I lost track there, is AfriForum have said, look, if the bill doesn't go before Parliament, then they will go to the Constitutional Court, because there's a constitutional right to have this. So, but that's the first issue. Before the referendum can actually be called, we've got to fix the legislative issues.
All right, fantastic. And yeah, about that AfriForum one, I'm hopefully going to have AfriForum to discuss that among other things that they're busy with in the near future. That's going to be very exciting. Then I have a question directed at Jack from Chris Wyatt saying, Joe, is Jack interested in a conversation about the IEC with me and the Zerust-based FFD, they too were cheated out of a seat and finally got the seat.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to chat to Chris. So yeah, no, hit me up with an email, Chris, and it'll be a pleasure to chat to you again.
All right, awesome. Look at me connecting people. Now, I know you guys have spoken before. All right, so here's an interesting question. I think I would like your opinion on both. Well, I would like both of your opinions on this following question. We'll start with Jack. Should political parties really be part of the solution for the Cape? An interesting philosophical question, almost.
Yeah, no, that's great, and it ties into what I wanted to respond to Phil earlier. Phil speaks from the perspective of a civic organization, and there are now a number of civic organizations in the Cape independent space, and I know about the civic route very well because it's something that I personally was involved in, my family was involved in for many, many years prior to me actually even starting the Cape Independence Party. And one of the problems with civic organizations, or one of the benefits, let me rather put it this way, is a civic organization doesn't have to face any of the pressure and the heat and the criticism that political parties suffer from. So one of the things that we found certainly in the past is people said, oh, we love Cape Independence, but what makes the Cape Independence Party different to any other political party? So we really, as a political party, we're swimming upstream. We're trying to fight against a perspective, which is a fair perspective, because people are so sick of politics, people are so sick of government, and a lot of people have grown disinterested with politics in general. So being a political party is actually very difficult. And so civic organizations almost have the benefit of sitting on the sidelines and, everyone's a genius. Everyone knows what you should be doing and how to do it better than you. But there's a fascinating study that was done in America, and Americans really have made a science of politics. And it broke down political campaigns of Republicans versus Democrats. And what it found, that every single candidate, virtually down to the vote, if there wasn't a strong issue involved, the candidate, Republican or Democrat, which had the biggest funding, won the election every single time, got the most votes every single time. To put it quite simply, money is the mother's milk of politics. If you have more money, you get more votes. Now, that's one thing that a lot of people in the civic organizations don't understand. And it really comes down to how much resources you can apply to getting your name and branding out there, getting yourself into all the channels which result in more votes. So this is one difficulty that we face. And so to answer that person, should political parties be in the Cape independent space? Well, there are those that, and my family, tried from 93, 94, pushing for Cape independence, getting this idea out there. And frankly, civic organizations don't have any legal or political authority to essentially force a referendum. And the only way that we're going to get a referendum is through a political party who's in power. In this case, the one who can determine who the premier of the province is, has the constitutional authority to grant the Western Cape a referendum. So the only way we're ever going to get a referendum, frankly, is through the political route. And therefore, we believe that Cape independence needs to be in the political space. And that's why we moved away from the easy but rewarding job of being a civic organization into the very difficult and tough space of being a political party. But frankly, the reason we did it is because we don't believe a referendum on independence is possible without having a political party fighting for this in government.
Fair enough. I do agree with your answer there, with why a political party needs to be, well, the question was, should political parties really be part of the solution? And they have to be. But Phil, Craig, do you wanna also give your opinion on that one? I mean, you guys, like Jack just said, you're an advocacy. You're an advocacy group. do you think, and I mean, I know the answer to this question, but again, should political parties really be part of the solution for the Cape?
No, look, that absolutely have to be. We're a advocacy group is another word for a political lobby group. I think it's absolutely essential that there are political parties involved in the space, I think I've made that clear. Whatever my differences, in terms of tonight with the Cape Party, has purely been about how much support those political parties command. It's absolutely essential that political parties are part of the space.
And very quickly, someone asked as well, I think it was Robert King. I lost the question, unfortunately, but he also asked something along the lines of, what has the Freedom Front Plus done since their announcement of being part of the movement? I think, we kind of forget that they also they also campaigned, as Jack mentioned earlier, with the DA. When the DA jumped on board, then the FF Plus was on board. So what have they done for the movement? Jack, what do you have to say about that?
Oh, well, I mean, you invited them to talk with us tonight about Cape Independence, and they aren't here. So I don't know. I can't speak on behalf of them.
Fair enough. Phil?
Look, I think alongside the Cape Independence Party, I think the Freedom Front have been a really valuable asset. I do an awful lot we speak to all the parties, and for those that don't know, the Freedom Front are involved with the Cape Independence, the broader movement, on a daily basis, virtually. I would speak to the Freedom Front probably 2 or 3 times a week. They absolutely are part. That's where, and I think they're absolutely part of the movement. But I think that the free and from that point of view, they've been valuable. I think every different part of the Cape Independence movement brings something different, and what the Freedom Front bring is a presence in the look. They've got MPs in the provincial parliament. They've got MPs in the national parliament, and ultimately they did well, and they've grown a lot in the Western Cape perhaps on the back of Cape Independence. I hope so in many ways. So I think they're absolutely central to what happens with Cape Independence. But I don't think any one organisation is the be all and end all. So will the Freedom Front deliver Cape Independence? No, they won't. The Cape Independence will be a team effort. But I think I think they're an essential part of the mix. We're very, very glad to have them on board, and I think it's great. I think it's interesting to see. There's obviously very different demographic of voters between people who are inclined to vote to the Freedom Front and people who are inclined to vote for the Cape Independence Party, and I think that's healthy to have a spread. And I think on top of those, I don't necessarily mean other parties. It comes back to the same point. Somehow, as a movement, we now have to just grow that level of support, and that's the discussion that the movement has to be said, because we're not going to dethrone the DA, and we don't need to dethrone the DA. I think to a certain extent, the DA can be an ally in this space, even though they don't support Cape Independence, but actually they have to be held under pressure, and they have to be held under pressure through a political threat, because the only way to keep a political party under threat is the fear of people voting for somebody else. I think the Freedom Front have provided a valuable addition to the stable for that, and I know from my discussions with the DA, that one of the things that the DA fears is losing votes to the Freedom Front Plus. So yes, I think they're intrinsic to what we're doing, just as the Cape Independence Party are.
All right, I'm going to push back a little bit on you, Phil, there, but before I do, Robert King says, I didn't ask the question, Joe. Okay, I'm sorry, Robert. I lost the question, sorry, but whoever asked the question, someone did. But anyway, doesn't matter. So Phil, I hear what you're saying, but I'm seeing a lot of people in the chats, saying that, you're almost, they didn't use this word, so don't. But they're saying like almost like delusional, like the DA isn't going to help you. The DA is stonewalling you. They're stalling you. They're going to do everything in their power to basically make it not happen. They're just, much of what Jack said. They're just, they just want the votes. They'll say, oh, we're going to do this because we want the votes. And it does feel like you kind of trust the DA a little bit more. And I can tell you now, a lot of people that are watching do not trust the DA. and they think you're being fooled.
Sure. No, look, and that's fine, and they're entitled to think that. Look, to be honest, I get told on a very regular basis that we're being fooled by the DA, and I think the DA is a political party full of politicians, and I think they'll behave like a political party full of politicians. So I think anybody who's thinking that actually we just naively believe everything that's said to us, we absolutely don't. I think the last discussion we had there in just in that last segment is talking about political pressure, and the question is not what will the DA do, but actually what can we keep them under pressure enough to do. So I don't mind. I get that people are distrusting, and people are wary of that. What I would also say is I personally am the person that's involved in these negotiations. I am you know and I often can't talk. You can't talk completely about what's going on. That's not how political lobbying works. But I think equally, I'm happy to take it on the chin and let people say, "Listen, you're being naive," and we'll see where we get to in the end, and that's fine. I take no offence at people thinking that. At the same time, I would just say to you guys, you're not in the room. You're not in those conversations. You're not at the negotiating table. I am, and on the other side, then just I trust my own instincts, and I have to just trust myself from there. And I think in any political change, whether it was the fall of apartheid, whether in my history, the fall of the Northern Irish Troubles, whether it's Brexit, whatever it is, there are always somebody's on one side of the room shouting, saying no compromise. Somebody's on the other side of the room shouting no compromise, and in the middle, people are getting down to negotiating the nitty gritty of how we get that happen. And actually, in terms of Cape Independence and the interaction with the establishment, with the provincial government, the CIAG takes the lead on that. We are the people who are in the room, and I can't always say this is what's said and that's what's said. We try to communicate regularly with our independence partners. So I'll take it on the chin. By all means, think I'm naive, and perhaps I'll be proven wrong. But I'll just say to you, you're not there. I am. I know things that you don't know, and I don't mean that to be arrogant. I'm not. But so what I mean is I'm in this to deliver Cape Independence. I'm not. It's not that I'm making a fortune out of doing this, or somehow this delivers great quality to my life. This is absolute a personal sacrifice to do what I'm doing. And if I thought it was a lost cause, I wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, well said. I had a feeling you were gonna, say something along those lines. Yeah, all right, gents. Look, it's a bit over the hour, so I'm gonna let you guys go. But before I do, I just want to give you guys a chance, give you guys the floor for just a few minutes. You can tell people, where people can find you, and if there's any last things you want to say, and now's your chance as well. Okay, wait, there's one more question for Phil. Sorry, it just came in. Ask Phil what he expects from the upcoming Action SA and ANC and DA and CIAG and FFF Plus independence debate.
Look, I'm very, very excited about that debate. I think this is the first, so effectively, for those that don't know, on the 23rd of June, there's an in-person Cape Independence debate, and there are four current or previous provincial leaders debating Cape Independence. Ibrahim Rasool, who's the ex ANC premier, Faki Mentor, who's the leader of Action SA in the Western Cape, Corne Mulder, who is the provincial leader of the Freedom Front Plus, and then Tertius Simmons, who's the provincial leader of the DA in the province. And I think it's an incredibly significant political thing that actually we're going to have this thing. And actually, for those that don't know, and I think that's come on from there, is actually the DA initially opted out of that debate, and then when it actually started to take place, and it was announced that actually they came back and asked it to be. Sorry, they said no. Could they actually be included because they think it's important that they're there at the debate? And I think that was a huge victory for just the debate itself. And I think it's going to be a really, really important movement where actually we can get down to the nitty gritty in person and to debate Cape Independence at a really significant level. And I'm very excited about that.
Where is this happening?
It's happening in Somerset West. There's very limited numbers. I think there's only about 30 seats. If people want to go to Worldview's, Broad Worldview's website, or if not, they can go and if not, if they don't know, they can mail us for the details at info@capeindependence.org. I don't know how many tickets are left. Perhaps there's none that's left, but it's going to be recorded. I'm not sure at this point in time whether it's going to be go out live, or the recording will be sent out afterwards. But it is going to be recorded so that people that aren't there will get to see it. But it's going to be very, very significant, and I'm really excited about that.
Carl, well, I mean, I was also going to ask the same question, but yeah, for Jack. Last question, guys. Jack, well, Phil, why was Jack not invited to the debate?
Well, ask the person who did the invitations. It's not. I'm only a guest on the panel.
Well, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to cut it here because I've borrowed too much time from these lovely gentlemen. So I'm obviously, look, you guys know you're always welcome on my channel to discuss things, to talk about Cape Independence. That door is always open. Jack, I definitely want to have you back again for another hour-long conversation, just mano a mano, and chatting more about the IC and your adventures there. I'm sure it's a very interesting and riveting conversation, as well as other things that you guys are busy with. I feel it's important that people need to know more about what the Cape Independence is busy with. And same with Phil. You know, you're always welcome on the channel, and we will always discuss what is next on the Cape Independence Advocacy Group movement or plans moving ahead. And I definitely want to know when the next march is, and I hope it's next year. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, Jack and Phil, I'm going to give you a moment to just give your final thoughts and final words. So Jack, you can go first.
Yeah, Joe, it's just been a great pleasure to chat with you tonight. And I just wanted to say thank you once again to all of the supporters out there who really helped us over the last 7 months. Have been a really tough battle for us. We've been learning on our feet. We've been fighting multiple battles, and to come out victorious with this additional seat, we wouldn't have been able to do it without the literally hundreds and hundreds of emails and letters and Facebook posts, which helped us win our court case. We're going to be putting Alderman Corin Brainard in for that second seat. Speaking of the DA, she was with the DA for 11 years. She left the DA. She was disillusioned with the direction that they were going. And we were honored that she came and she chose us, the Cape Independence Party, as her new political home. And I hope that she is actually a microcosm of bigger things to come. In that, you know, we have a good, I'd say we've got a robust relationship with the DA. We think that they're politicians, you know, and you know, obviously us at the Cape Independence Party, I guess you could call us that too, but we're more a movement. We're a groundswell movement of people that are just business people, entrepreneurs, taxpayers, voters that are sick and tired of this political system, sick and tired of where this country's going. And so we started a political party, and you know, we do damn well with limited resources. And now we're in government, and we're going to shake things up. And to see Alderman Corin Brainard, who I think will probably be one of many DA people in the future that may actually want to jump ship and come and join us. And we're just really excited. We just want to say thank you so much to all the Cape Independence voters out there. It really made a huge difference in this election, and we've been fighting our butts off for you over the last 6 months. We're going to continue to do that. And thank you so much for your support.
Awesome. Phil, any last words?
No, likewise. Look, thank you very much, Joe. Thanks, Jack. Good for you, and congrats on the seat. From our point of view, I'm excited. I think we're in a good space for Cape Independence in terms of having set up a foundation for the future. And I think, you know, what we're pushing very, very hard for now is to try and get the different players in the movement together, and to find a strategy that actually pushes on it, because you know, at some point we've got to get beyond talking about this thing, and we've got to get it done. And I think that's the key thing. We all understand that you know, having talked about you know, as a movement, us, you know, we can only talk about it for so long. We've got to deliver this thing, and I think the key thing now is, and South Africa's only got so long left, and we've got to get this thing delivered, and we've got to get it delivered quick. And I hope to be talking to Jack in those discussions along with the other guys in the organisation, and let's hopefully we can put our heads together and find the right formula for the next chapter and to get this thing over the line.
Fantastic. And do it before stage 8 kicks in, please, guys. All right. Once again, guys, thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'm sure we'll have you on the show soon once again. So cheers, guys.
Cheers. Thanks, Joe.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Phil Craig and Jack Miller. Phil Craig from Cape Independence Advocacy Group and Jack Miller from Cape Independence Party. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Worldview, for stopping by. Those of you who don't know Worldview, please go give them a subscribe. Great channel. Thanks to everybody else like Chris Wyatt and Ronaldo and everybody else that tuned in. Gian, Carl, Johan, Stefan, the male Jody Taylor, Kermit, GTT, Eric, and so on, Alex Amos, Robert King, Rudy, the list can go on and on. Thank you all so much for those of you that watch the show. If you're not yet a subscriber, please subscribe. Unfortunately, my schedule is a bit messed up now due to load shedding, so I'm no longer really streaming on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursdays. It's pretty much I'm trying to stream when I have electricity. So subscribe, you will see me again. If all goes according to plan, you will see me on Thursday. This Thursday, it's a really fun show with some comedians, and we have a lot of fun with you guys. So do tune into that. If not, just subscribe and you'll know when my next video is out. I also do original content. So thank you guys so much for watching. And if you really enjoyed it, give a super thanks or a super chat or become a member to the channel. It really helps keep the channel growing and helps me to do all these kinds of content with you guys. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And if I don't see you at the next one, stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.